Teaching Information Literacy, Empowering Future Generations Through High School Librarianship. This presentation will focus on information literacy in high school libraries and teach you why information literacy matters, what 3 skills comprise information literacy, what sub-skills should be taught to teach each skill, and how each sub-skill may be taught in high school libraries. So why does information literacy matter? The internet is growing and so is knowledge. With the growth of knowledge is a great potential for societal growth and the growth of the internet. Citizens know how to interpret and create information, and then they're able to actively participate in society, experience personal and economic success, learn independently, and engage in social responsibility to contribute to democracy. There are many dangers of being information illiterate. For one, information overload can frustrate students like the guy in the picture is. Also, students will be more likely to succumb to good enough information, and they won't even know it because they trust what they see. This information illiterate population is at risk to be manipulated and dominated by companies and special interest groups. We must enable students to swim in the sea of information rather than sinking under it. The American Association of High School Libraries suggests that students who are information literate can access information effectively, can evaluate information, and can use information accurately and creatively. When teaching students to access information, we must teach 5 sub-skills called indicators. The first of which is to recognize the need for information. The second of which is to recognize that accurate and comprehensive information is the basis of intelligent decision making. The third indicator is to formulate questions based on information needs. They must also identify a variety of potential sources of information and develop and use successful strategies for locating information. To teach students to recognize the need for information, librarians should help students identify what they already know and what they need to know. They can do this by using a KWL, which is having students list what they know, what they want to know, and what they learned before and after researching, and by having students web or cluster, starting with one topic and branching off into subtopics. Students must also learn to recognize that accurate and comprehensive information is the basis for intelligent decision making. Librarians might use an information interview or chaining to show how citations are used to form intelligent decisions. They might also show students how to formulate questions based on information needs. Bates' idea tactics such as thinking, brainstorming, meditating, consulting, and rescuing help students not to give up before they try other strategies. High school students must also learn to identify a variety of potential sources of information. The information interview and the strategies of differentiating and monitoring, which teach criteria for evaluating sources ahead of time and making sure students do not overlook current information, can both be effective ways for helping students to identify sources ahead of time. Students must also develop and use successful strategies for locating information. Librarians should teach varying search types and varying tactics for searching. Bates' tactics of berry picking, re-examining the question, using new information to help with the search, looking at it from another group's perspective, and narrowing or expanding the search and considering subtopics helps students to develop strategies to locate information. Aside from accessing information, students must also evaluate it by determining its accuracy, by distinguishing among fact and opinion, by identifying inaccurate and misleading information, and by selecting information appropriate to the question at hand. Students must determine accuracy, relevance, and comprehensiveness. So Longhorn suggests that students evaluate the relevance to the topic, the suitability to the reader, the authority of the author, and the objectivity and currency of information when determining a source's relevance. Neely adds that for websites, the domain, the bias, the length, and the use of metadata should also be considered. Students must also distinguish among fact, point of view, and opinion. They must not think that all opinion statements start with I think, I feel, or I believe. They must be taught that they do not all start that way. Teachers might use newspapers in order to show how quotes can show a point of view. Librarians should collaborate by providing newspapers and also by making sure that students are taught to determine bias and to identify emotional language in their English and history classrooms. Librarians must also teach identifying and inaccurate and misleading information. Students are often given factual information, and so they must be taught that not everything that they see online is factual. Librarians must collaborate to make sure students can identify propaganda techniques and fallacies of logic. They must also teach students to select information appropriate to the problem or question at hand. Students can skim, look for trends and patterns, and use note-taking methods to help them identify the problem or question at hand. They should use the trash or treasure method to highlight important words and get rid of things that do not relate to their topic. They should use the two-column method to list subtopics and more important details on varying sides of the columns. And they should use index cards according to the MLA website. Students should also learn not just how to access and evaluate, but how to use information. To organize information for practical application, to integrate new information into their own knowledge, to apply information in critical thinking and problem solving, and to produce and communicate information and ideas in appropriate formats. They must organize information for practical application, and to teach this, we might look at subtopics and relationships to break down a topic. We might also use graphic organizers or color-coded MLA note cards color-coded by topic. Also, students need to learn to integrate the new information with their old knowledge. Before they research, they should be taught to outline or map what they know. Then they should revisit it after their search to integrate the new knowledge with their old. Students must also apply information in critical thinking and problem solving, so librarians should consider the students' assignment and purpose and ask questions to help them achieve their assignment goal. For example, if a student is trying to solve a problem, the librarian might ask what solutions they have come up with. Or if a student is interpreting literature, the librarian might ask what trends and what thoughts they have, what trends they see and what thoughts they have regarding the literature. They must also teach students to produce and communicate information and ideas in appropriate formats. They should require varying presentation styles such as written presentations, visual presentations, and oral presentations such as debate. They should teach consideration of target audience and proper use of sources. For the good of individuals, for the good of our nation, for justice, we must ensure that all high school graduates are able to effectively access, evaluate, and use information so that they may make ethical decisions and engage in the information society.